Well, it's time now to know what's on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers, and I have joining with me journalists Ifi Oyegbule and Dario Dufuoko. They're here in the studio. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Gentlemen.
Good morning.
The press.
Why were you hesitating?
Okay, so we have several newspapers this morning. The National Economy, The Guardian, The Punch, This Day, Blueprints, Leadership, Daily Sun, Vanguard, Tribune, The Nation, Daily Trust, and News Direct. So we'll start with the National Economy. AFCFTA markets a pan-African platform to reduce transaction payments by $50 billion. The Guardian newspaper says, airfare spike as aviation fuel nears 300 naira per litre at airports. The Punch newspaper says the endless borrowing, experts worry Okonjo-Iweala Ahmed differ on Nigeria's debt. Now the writer says, we will borrow more to build infrastructure, federal government insists. Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio rose from 29% to 35%, that's according to WTO boss. Funds spent on debt servicing by government worrisome, says experts. Now we move to This Day newspaper this morning, and it's talking about petrol. It says petrol smuggling rises to 42 million litres daily. NNPC cries out. It says subsidy hits 150 billion monthly. The Blueprint says ACF to Ohaneze Afenifere protects northerners in southeast-southwest. Leadership newspaper says insecurity. Sheikh Gumi fingers military, police in bandits operations. The Daily Sun says military colluding with bandits, alleges Gumi. And the writer says herdsmen better than IPOB. Allegation false, targeted at denigrating troops, that's according to the army. Immigration's CG reveals how security operatives supply bandits arms and ammunition. The Vanguard says banditry. Army kicks as Gumi alleges collusion by security agents. That's according to the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Banditry, army kicks as Gumi alleges collusion by security agents. We move to the Tribune. It says security agents colluding with bandits, according to Gumi. And the writers here say, stop making sweeping allegations. Army replies him. We move to the Nation newspaper. He's talking about insecurity. ACF, Afenifere Ohaneze, others joined forces. Arewa plans ethnic leaders dialogue on state of the nation. That's in the Nation newspaper this morning. And so we will look at several stories in the newspapers. And of course, major stories in most newspapers are talking about banditry and insecurity. The Punch here is talking also about experts worrying Okonjo-Iweala Ahmed differ on Nigeria's debt. And the Guardian says airfare spike as aviation fuel nears 300 naira per litre at the airports. Now let's start with the economy. In the Punch newspaper, it's talking about endless borrowing. Experts worry Okonjo-Iweala Ahmed differ on Nigeria's debt. We will borrow more to build infrastructure, federal government insists. Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio rose from 29% to 35% according to WTO boss. Funds spent on debt service and by government worrisome, says experts. That's in the Punch newspaper this morning. Gentlemen of the press, each time many people talk about Nigeria's borrowing, the question that comes to mind is who will pay? How do we pay for this?
That's a big question that we keep asking. Who exactly is going to pay? This is an administration that has about just 2 years before. Anyway, government never stops when someone else. Yes, when someone else gets in there. You continue from where the former administration stopped. I read a report where people were going back and forth saying that all of the borrowing started with Jonathan, and I just couldn't agree with what it was that that person said. You know, this government comes and says, look, we're going to borrow this to do this. We know that when it was the Obasanjo-led administration, some debts were written off, as it were. Jonathan came, of course, there was some borrowing. Now we have this. Every day you come on the pages of newspapers, you're hearing that the government is borrowing and borrowing. And as you ask the question, who exactly is going to pay? So it's just going to be left at the doorstep of the next person who's coming in as president when the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari ends. And it goes back to Daura. He said to us that he's going back to his farm. You won't have to call him from there to come say to us, this is how we're going to pay. But I'm very worried, just like some experts are saying. You keep borrowing. Where exactly is the money going? That's the big question. How are you utilizing these monies that you're borrowing? And who exactly is going to pay? I just hope that someday we don't wake up and become a country that will disintegrate because of the monies that
become a Chinese country.
Exactly, that we go borrowing. Someone asked me a question. I think they saw a photograph after the public presentation or the opening of that train station. Someone saw a flag. I think they munched it. I hope it's not Photoshop. I was asking me, what's the Chinese flag doing there? And I said to them, look, it's the Minister of Transportation that will be able to answer that question. But I hope it's not true, because that's something that is quite worrisome.
All right, so Dari.
Well, borrowing to fund infrastructure
yeah,
all over the world is a routine. My worry is only in what we do with what we borrow.
Okay.
Especially at a time like this, when the world over, we are obviously in a meltdown. The economy cannot run the country. Our own economy cannot run this country as it were. Be it because of the way we've handled our country, or largely because of what has happened in the last couple of years. We had coronavirus, we had NSAS, largely we are almost in an economic standstill. The naira is falling.
It's a free fall.
A free fall. So our options are not many. Should we insist that don't borrow, and then it's the end for infrastructure? Take it from the state level. The governors are borrowing, and you ask them what they are borrowing for. Some will tell you they are borrowing to pay salary. And some of us are asking questions. At a time like this, shouldn't you come forward with funds like your security votes to help do some of the things you need to do? But they are borrowing. So you shouldn't be surprised that the federal government is borrowing. I read the short take yesterday. I don't know how true it is. I'm still trying to find out that when Buhari met with the local government chairman, he told them that, look, you are sitting down here and complaining. We have paid your allocation directly to your account this month. If you like, withdraw it and hand it over to the governors. You will account for it either at the FCC office or at Kirikiri Maximum Prison. Fine quotation. Beautiful saying. I want to apply it simply because I won't be part of those who will say don't borrow. If you don't borrow, we may just be at a standstill. I just want to apply that statement to the fact that all these borrowings, sooner or later, everybody involved will account for it. Either at the AFCC office or any anti-graft agency that exists then, or at Kirikiri Maximum Prison. Because when you borrow in the name of the people, we can cite examples. From the days of Obasanjo, we have been working on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And we have been borrowing money to work on such roads. We are still working on that road. We are still borrowing money to fix that road. On Tuesday, I think, the roof of the National Assembly went leaking. And we had to bring in people who know how to pack water. I can tell you that since we returned to democracy, renovation of National Assembly, I must have had at least 4 times. The issues of renovating the National Assembly crept into our discourse at least 4 times. We also have personal houses. Since 2009, I have not renovated the roof of my house. And it has not leaked. Is it because it's a small house? That when you now renovate the National Assembly, it must be every year?
And
some people got money to renovate the National Assembly.
Okay.
But on Tuesday, the entire roof, and yesterday, the Senate President said it. We were waiting to hear it. He said it is time to renovate the National Assembly. These are the reasons why we are borrowing every day, my brother.
So at this
the
time,
things we do with money.
At this time, we'll take a break and return with more. We need to pay some bills, and when we come back, we'll have more to discuss on the newspapers. We're still on the newspaper reviews. Of course, we have in the studio Ifi Oyegbule and Dario Dufuoko, members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm. So we'll talk about banditry this time around. We are looking at the Vanguard newspaper and the Daily Sun, both headlines similar. The Vanguard says banditry, army kicks as Gumi alleges collusion by security agents. The Daily Sun says the military colluding with bandits, alleges Gumi. And the rider is saying herdsmen better than IPOB, allegation false, targeted at denigrating troops, as according to the army. Immigration's CG reveals how security operatives supply bandits arms and ammunition. First of all, gentlemen, what's your take on this allegation by Sheikh Gumi?
I think it's quite heavy. Beg your pardon. Very heavy, as it is for him to come up to say this. And I'm also wondering why you're putting bandits and IPOB side by side. We shouldn't be having such conversations on national TV, if you ask me. We shouldn't be having such, what do you call it, headlines on the pages of the newspaper. I'm thinking that Sheikh Gumi also needs to watch some of the things that he says. Some of these things are inflammatory, and you have an idea what it is that might happen. The government needs to find a way to deal with the things going on. I just came back from the Southeast, and that's to tell you the truth. Yes, nothing happened while I was there, but you could feel the apprehension with people. I spoke with some people one-on-one. I spoke with the cabman who was taking me to the airport, and I asked him a question, and he said to me, look, once it's 5 p.m., I'm back home, you know, because I don't want to stay outside.
So that shows the fear.
Exactly. Palpable fear that you can actually touch. And I'm thinking that the federal government needs to find a way to get to the root of what it is that's going on, because this is not what we want to fan as we look forward to 2023.
All right, Dario, he has insisted that only negotiation by government will solve the problem, not use of force. What do you think?
I think Gumi is not helping the situation. I've been saying this before. Whatever it is he's saying, no matter how true or verifiable some of his claims are, I think he is helping to fester the nets of these bandits. I think he is not encouraging the fight against banditry. In my candid opinion, he is in fact almost aiding and abetting.
So what do you think should have been done about this?
The truth of the matter is, let us take care of this Gumi menace in this issue first. Please, who is Gumi? How did he suddenly become the mouthpiece of the bandits? And why are we just watching him? What is the DSS doing about this? He seems to know so much. And each time he talks, he encourages their acts. And I think it is not good for us, telling us if you don't negotiate with them, they will do more. And every day they are doing more. Telling us if you don't do this, they will do this. And every day they are doing. In fact, it's as if each time he is pointing the next direction they should go for them. Go and check all that he has been saying. Soon after he says anything, something similar will happen. Soon after he says anything. So I think Gumi should first consider the impact of what he says on the entire war against criminality in the country. I am not saying he does not have a right to say what he likes, but if our DSS feels all of us can say it the way we see it and threaten the entire nation, so be it then. But we are saying that army and security agents and bandits are conniving is nothing new.
Because he said it's a business now.
Years back, we know that police in Nigeria connives with armed robbers. We have not, because of that, labeled the entire police force as connivers and then allow armed robbers to have a field day. There will always be bad eggs. We know that. But we should not play up this at a time we are trying to end the reign of terror fostered on all of us by these bandits. what he is saying, you cannot continue to attack bandits, but you have to sit down on a negotiating table with them. Has he told bandits that you cannot continue to kidnap? That you should talk with the government? What he is saying appears to be like, look, they are doing the right thing, you are doing the wrong thing. No! Two wrongs, they say, don't make a crime. But we can affect the first, I mean, the two wrongs don't make it right. But we can affect the first wrong itself. Let the bandits stop their criminalities. Then government should discuss with them on how to rehabilitate them. You can, I don't believe that we should be talking verbally with a man that holds a gun every day. It's suicidal. A man is shooting and you want to be talking.
If you're saying rehabilitate them,
when they stop this,
but
that's what I mean.
Some people will not agree.
Let's get to that stage first. What I'm saying is that we cannot be discussing rehabilitation. We cannot be discussing negotiation with people who are still shooting every day. Let them first take let them take the first step of ending all their criminalities. Oh, they've ended it in the last 1 year. We've not had anything about bandits. Okay, where are they? It doesn't have to be government that will rehabilitate them. There are agencies all over the world doing this for turncoats, people who turn their ways. There are religious bodies, there are international agencies. So the first thing they need to do is stop your criminality. If you continue to shoot, government will come for you. The military will come for you. I don't see anything wrong in trying to end banditry by force. We have treated, see, in Nigeria, I said this sometime in the past, we give names to everything. What is banditry? I don't see banditry here. I see the extension of the war in the northeast. This is still Boko Haram. We should stop deceiving ourselves. Boko Haram, this is guerrilla warfare. They have to survive in the bush. The bandits, the people you call bandits, are just an arm of the fighters in the northeast. The army is dealing with them there in such a way that they cannot operate freely. Now they are splitting into departments and sectors. You guys have to keep the war going by kidnapping and what do they do with those money? You see? Okay. The ransoms are used to fund their war. And we keep giving them, tomorrow we'll call them herdsmen. The other day we'll call them militants. Now they are bandits. They are no longer cattle rustlers. This is just different parts of one issue. Boko Haram war is an extension. All the kidnapping in the southwest, in the southeast are part of that same war because they have to fund the war in the way they can.
All right, some people have called that the government gives them amnesty, even Gumi as well has said it at a point. Will that be the way forward?
How would anyone think about that? That's unthinkable. That's the truth. That's the only word that actually describes what you have just said to me. Of course, I've read it in some of the papers, and I'm wondering, as Dari said, why should Gumi be the one who's speaking for the bandits? And you have a government who says to us that you cannot find where these people
Remember
are.
what happened to Ahmed Salkida, right?
But you have one person who's giving you an idea of where these people are. So why don't you make him your lead so that he takes you to exactly where these people are? But as you've asked, I don't think the word amnesty should come when we're talking about people whose aims are just to see that people are killed
and destroyed.
Are you kidding me? Amnesty? So what are you going to do for the parents who had to raise 180 million naira on their own? They bought the bikes on their own so that their children can actually be released. But some kids had been killed before those other parents raised 180 million in a country where a government pledged to protect lives and, of course, property. I think this is laughable. They need to do something about Sheikh Gumi as it is. And I'm saying, look, no to amnesty for people whose desires are just to kill Nigerians as it is. They've said to us that some of them are not Nigerians. How do they come into the country? That's a big question. So what are you doing about that in policing the borders? So there are questions for people to answer. And there are brand new service chiefs now as we speak. What are they doing? What is the yardstick? How are you measuring them? What is the KPI for crying out loud? Who's talking about that? So there are issues, and I think they should come to a table and decide what it's going to be.
Gentlemen of the press, thank you very much for talking to us this morning on the newspaper review. Thank you very much, Dario Dufooko and Ifeanyi. Thank you very much.